Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and start reviewing for your ACT. You need to take notes because you will apply the information from this to complete the worksheets that you are given in class on Monday. They should be completed when you come to class on Tuesday so that we can move forward with the practice test and move on from there. So let's go ahead and start with subjects, predicates, and objects. The predicate for all other purposes is called a verb, and we're going to start looking at some sentences here. So let's go ahead and take a minute here. The sentence that is basically made up of the three parts. The wind is howling. So if you have to ask yourself, what is the subject about? Then you would just say, what is it about? It would be the wind. What is the wind doing? Is your predicate. Is howling. In this case, there is no object. The subject of a sentence can be singular or compound. So you could have, I drove for hours. Omar and I drove for hours. I drove for hours is singular. So right here, this right here is singular. And this one over here is plural, because we have Omar and I. There's two people doing something. So that's a compound subject. The predicate can also be singular or it can be plural. So singular would be I washed the windows, and just washed windows, we only did one thing. And over here we washed the windows and we hung our new curtains. So we did two things, which would mean it's compound. Please take a minute and practice this with the sentences on number 1 and number 2. Alright, next, when we're trying to identify an object, you're looking for not what's at the beginning of the sentence. Generally, you're looking for what's at the end of the sentence, what the verb is connected to. So, I washed the windows. What is it that you washed? The windows was what was washed. That connects to the verb. So, what was washed will answer the question windows, and that will be your object. Rover wants food. Food is the object. It connects to wants. What is wanted? So in that case, you're asking yourself the question, what is washed? What is wanted? And that gives you your object. So if we move down here, a sentence can have indirect objects. A person or thing which receives the direct object. The sentences below the direct object is underlined, and the indirect object is unbold. So, I asked Vladimir a question. Vladimir receives the question, and the question receives the action of being asked. So, Vladimir receives the question receives the being asked. So this right here is our indirect object. The guest gave the host a gift. The guest is the subject, so you'd put an S. Gave is our verb. The host is your object. And what was given to the host? It was a gift, which is your indirect object, I-O. Alright, I'm going to have you guys practice these skills with practice 1 on your worksheet. Please begin now. Alright, we're looking at independent and dependent clauses. So the independent clause is something that can stand on its own. A dependent clause is something that has an awubis. So an awubis, put them over here, you have although, after, as, while, when, before, because, unless, until, if, and since. Those are your woobuses. Make those bigger. Okay. It will not always have an awubis, but for the most part, you're going to see one there. So obviously, we have our dependent clause here. Talks about he forgot his keys. Our subject would be We've got our subject, he forgot. What did he do? He forgot. What did he forget? His keys. Subject, verb, object. And then we have our awubis, because he, what did he do? He forgot. His keys is what he forgot. So our subject, verb, object again. You can make the same clause an independent or a dependent. Notice that the dependent clause is incomplete. It requires an additional thought to make it complete. He was late because he forgot his keys. So in this case, then, you would have a subject and a subject. Was late, verb, forgot, verb, and then you have an object of his keys, and then you have your wubis. And that would be connecting two clauses. Okay, next we're going to look at modifiers and phrases. Alright, sentences are often filled out by phrases and modifiers. Phrases are groups of words that do not have both a subject and a predicate. They might have either a subject or they might have a predicate, but they're missing something. The most common phrases are prepositional phrases. Prepositional phrases tell where something happened. So when we're going to look at this here, prepositions, there's a short list here of prepositions. That's not all of them, but as you can see, a majority of these are going to answer the question where. They're going to somehow answer where something happens, where, when, sometimes how. We're going to practice with your practice 2, so stop the video and do your practice at this time. Alright, we have placements of modifiers. Placements of modifiers. As a general rule, words, phrases, or clauses that describe nouns and pronouns should be as close as possible to the words that they describe. The blue wagon, for example, is a better sentence. It's clearer, more concise, and precise than the wagon that is blue. In the first sentence, the modifier blue is right next to the word that it modifies. So when you have an adjective, okay, when you're given an adjective, you want to try and see what it is actually describing. So blue is describing wagon. If you said the wagon that is blue is too wordy, you have too much stuff in the middle, and on the ACT, that's what you would want to take out. Just cross that stuff out. So when the modifiers are not next to the words they describe, you not only use extra words, you might also end up with misplaced or dangling modifiers. Racing to the car, I watched him trip and drop his dog. So racing to the car, I watched him trip and drop his dog. Who is racing the car? Because the modifier racing to the car is next to I, the sentence says that I was doing the racing. So this guy was doing the racing. But the verb watched indicates that he was the one racing to the car. Here are two corrected versions. So this sentence here is not okay the way it is. If this was on the ACT, it would require some change. I watched as he raced to the car and dropped his bag. I keep saying dog. He's dropping his bag, not his dog. I watched as, racing to the car, comma, he dropped his bag. I would say if you're looking at an ACT, this is the one, the first one is the one that would be the best option. Adding extra commas is never something you necessarily want to do unless you have to. You want to make it as simple as possible. That's kind of a key thing on the ACT is simplicity. So make sure you keep things simple. Okay, finally, we're going to take a look at parallel structure. This will be on the ACT as well. Parallel structure means that words and phrases in the sentence follow the same grammatical pattern. This makes ideas easier to follow and expresses ideas more gracefully. So again, easiest, simplest way possible is what you're looking for on the ACT. So it is not parallel. It is not parallel. For weeks she fretted, worried, and was feeling anxiety. Two verbs are in the past tense and one is in the past participle. So she fretted, worried, and was feeling. That makes it unparalleled. For weeks she fretted, worried, and felt anxious. Because those are all in similar verb tenses, that is how you determine that it is parallel. You look at verb tenses in this case. Let's look at the next set. I need a car that gets good gas mileage, has full warranty, and one that I can depend on. This is not parallel structure because two of the characteristics are verb plus descriptive phrase, and the third is a whole new clause. So this is our verb, and this is our descriptive phrase. There's our adjective right there. And then verb and add descriptive phrase. And then this right here is a clause. It has another subject. We don't have a subject in the first two. So to make it parallel, I need a car that gets good gas mileage, has full warranty, and is dependable. So again, we kept it simple, we kept it precise, and we were very direct here. And so you wanted to keep that simple. I would like for you to go ahead and continue on working with the practice 3, or I'm sorry, it would be, so please work on practice 3. Please have practice 1, 2, and 3 completed when you come into class. And we will be taking we'll be working through as a class a practice ATC English portion.